So now let's try to understand what are loops in Solidity. Just make a file of loops sol, right? And just add your license identifier right over here. License identifier of MIT. Let's increase the font so that you can see it properly, right? Let's add a pragma solidity of 0.8, let's say 8, and put this 7 right over here. And now let's see that how many types of loops are there, right? Just add a multi-line comment so that I can write and explain in more brief manner, right? Let's say types of loops in Solidity. Now the first type of loop which we have is for loop, and second one which we have is your while loop. The third one is we have do while. Now this might, if you are familiar with JavaScript or maybe like any other language, these are essentially the same loops or any same concept used in that language as well, wherein we most probably use this for loop. We don't use this while loop or do while in most of the cases, right? Let's say you can add a comment if you want that while loop and do while do is rarely used, right? So now let's hop on to the main concept. Let's just make a contract over here of, let's say, loop, and let's add a function to this function of loop. Now this function is going to be a public function, which is a pure function. Now if you're not familiar with this pure concept, I will make a video on explaining the view, returns, everything in the upcoming classes. Just stay tuned for that. Now we can add let's say we can add a for loop right over here. I'm just sharing an example for loop. Let's say for now, every time when you write a for loop, you need to add for this keyword right over here, and let's take a uint, and which is a uint, and now this uint, let's say we can make this uint as 0 at the initial case, and then if the I is greater than 0, let's say we can add a when it's greater than 0, smaller than 0, we're gonna increment I plus plus, right? Or you can even say I is equals to I plus plus 1, so that will be the same. So you can even add I plus plus, so that essentially the same concept or the same thing which we are going to be using, right? So now when so initially we have this I, which is a uint, which means it's an unsigned integer, which means it's a positive integer. If that I is less than 10, then we're going to increment that by 1, yeah, and then if it doesn't, we're going to also add a if statement right over here, which means if the, let's say, I is strictly equal to 3, we're gonna continue this thing on the we're gonna continue, else we're gonna let's say if we have I fixed it to 5, we're gonna break, right? So this is a simple concept of how you can use loops in your this. Now this means that if when the loop is equal to 3, then we're gonna continue. If it is equal to 5, we're gonna break, right? That's how you're gonna be simple. And yeah, let's say take an example of while loop over here. A while loop. This is very rarely used. I often not use it very much. Let's say we're going to be using while loop, and let's just make a event of event of 26, or let's say event simple one, and this would be a example of j. And let's say while we have j is let's say less than 10, right? We're gonna increment, let's say j plus plus. Cool. So now this, we have a simple example of while loop, how we can use it. Let's just run this program and let's see what eventually happened. Okay, so it's showing us that we need to have a function or struct b. Okay, so I need to pass this inside this function, so that's why it's causing the error. Again, compile. Cool. So let's just deploy this. Deploy. So we have this loop. Click on this loop. It will show nothing because now we aren't printing that on the console or on the screen itself. Right, so that's how a simple loop can be formed, right? It's a simple example we can use in our contract if we want. So yeah, that's essentially everything, and just wait for this update of what is pure and this public, everything in the contract. We'll let you know what are these.